everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Samantha Anderson. I am a freelance artist and teacher hoping to inspire creativity. If you would like more videos like these, please take a second to like and subscribe down below. It really helps in the algorithm of YouTube to help get my videos seen to more people. If you want to receive notifications of when I go live, please make sure to hit the bell and choose all notifications. If you have any questions during or after the class, make sure to pop a comment down below and I will answer it as soon as I can. I'll be leaving timestamps down below so you can skip ahead to the start of class, but I will be sharing announcements as well as supplies, so make sure to stick around for that. If interested in learning more about my classes, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and feel free to check me out on Patreon, where I teach exclusive classes to those who support me. In Patreon, I also give traceables for all of my live classes, including this one. Lastly, if you would like to share your work after class with me and others who painted along with us, please head over to Facebook, as I have an artist community where you can share your finished painting with us. I'll leave links for all of that in the description box below. Thanks for joining me, and let's get started. Hi everyone! Welcome back to another live class. This one is going to be so fun. I've had so many people say, is this watercolor or is this acrylics? I'm going to be painting this in acrylics, but I've had many people follow along my acrylic paintings with watercolor. So if you want to do that and you know watercolors at least a little bit, feel free to do whatever medium you want in terms of like watercolor or acrylics. It will look beautiful in either, and I'm almost tempted to do another one, but in watercolor. I'm really tempted to do that, but for right now we're gonna be doing acrylics. So hello everyone, welcome in. Please say hi in the comments if you are here painting live with me, or if you're just here to say hello, that is totally fine too. Yeah, I'm just going to, give me 1 second. I'm going to make this, okay, there we go. Yeah, so I have a couple things. I have the traceable for anyone who wants it. Obviously this is totally optional, and even within the traceable, I didn't do all the little like the rigidness of the of each leaf. I just did a general outline of where it was. I'll link that below, and that's just if you need a little bit of extra guidance with your outline. You could also do the background and then just put your leaves in. You don't have to do a traceable. I've had other people say, I have beautiful leaves in my backyard. 100% use those. You could even put like charcoal or something on the back and just, like, you know, however you want to trace it, go for it. But I do have a traceable available for my patrons if you're interested, and with that you'll also get all of the traceables that I've ever done for my live classes. So if you've been eyeing a different class, as well as the rest for this month. Yeah, so that is available. And then the only other announcement I have is in Patreon we are doing a live cobalt class now. We used to do a Zoom, but now we're doing a weekly class where it's about an hour and 15 minutes. And this is what we did after the first session. We are doing a vintage church with like a large tree, and I think it's coming out really, really well. I'm really excited about it. So that was just after one session, so that's kind of like a work in progress, our Whip Wednesday, so to speak. I did post that earlier today, but yeah, welcome in. I'm just kind of waiting for everyone to get in, but let's go ahead and go over supplies. And then oh, somebody says hello from Southern Alabama. Hello. Welcome. Okay, let's go over some supplies. Now theoretically you would just need your white, your black, and maybe raw umber, and then your primary colors. If you don't want to use your blue, you can just use your green. That's probably what I'll be doing, but I will probably have my blue out just in case I want to darken my green and make it a little bit more richer without dulling down the color. Sometimes when you add brown to things to darken it, it becomes kind of muddy. If you added blue, it becomes a little bit more richer in color while still darkening it. So that's totally up to you. I'll go over specific colors that I'm using in a second. I have my 11 by 14 canvas. This canvas is from Frederick's. They gifted me in the beginning of the year. They gifted a whole bunch of canvases to me. I'm still working through those. So I'm super thankful to Frederick's. I think I only have 2 more, so probably for the last 2 classes of this month, and then I'll be buying my own canvases. But these have been really great to work with, so I'm super thankful for them. So that's 11 by 14, but you can use whatever size canvas you want. It doesn't really matter. This actually might look really good on one of those really long canvases. I actually have one of those, but my studio space doesn't really account for that for my live classes, but maybe I'll paint it again. Yeah, so whatever size you want. This would probably also look really cool on a round canvas. Maybe I'll buy a round canvas one of these days. I've always wanted to paint on a round canvas. For supplies, I forgot to get my water, so I will need to go get water. Water, paper towel, and then your palette. For the brushes, I will be using a large filbert brush, and if you want, you can use a flat brush. This is really just for the background, so any large brush that you want to use for the background. It can be a very, very large brush. It can be, you know, just a 1 inch or a 3/4 inch. That's totally fine, whatever you have on hand. And then the rest of the brushes, the rest of these are from Grabby. I got gifted these technically before my move, but I've only recently been able to open them and start using them. I'm going to be having a review coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. But I will be using the number 8 filbert, which is just a medium to small filbert. And then I have a medium round, a small round, and then I do have a liner brush. And the liner brush is optional, but I find it really helpful if you're wanting to do detail work with the small details in all of the leaves. So, but that is optional. You don't have to have that. I just find it really helpful. And then another tool you might need is a small palette knife. I have these for all my classes. That's really helpful when you are mixing paint. It's really helpful to have this because you're not wasting paint in your brush, and you're not dirtying your water when you're trying to mix multiple colors before you even start painting. So this keeps your water clean, provided you actually got some, and you can mix large quantities of paint without wasting it in your brushes. Okay, so I will be right back. I need to go grab some water, and then I think we can get started. Oh, let me go for colors real fast. Okay, so I have my white, and all of these details and supplies are listed below, and I do have an Amazon shop both for Canada and for the US. For the US, I have a little bit more there just because that's where I'm from, but I have Amazon shops for that. Those are all listed below. Yeah, so if you're ever wanting to use something that I have, go there first. I also have paint refills and all that jazz. Okay, so white, I have my black, my raw umber, and then I'm going to be using my red, yellow, and green, and then I'm going to keep my ultramarine blue out just in case I want to use it. I will probably use it, but we will see. Sometimes I don't know the colors until we're actually like, oh, I think I need a little bit more of this. Okay, please comment any questions you have. I'm going to go grab a little bit of water, and I will be right back. Okie dokie, artichoke. Who's ready to paint? Alright. Hopefully everyone is here who wanted to paint live. Obviously, if you're here just hanging out, that is totally fine too. Say hi in the comments. Okay. So the first thing we are going to do, we are going to make a cream color for the background. It's not actually white background. It is a very light cream color. So this will add a nice soft feeling to the painting. So let's go ahead and start that. I'm gonna grab this white. So the main colors for this are going to be white and a lot of it. And then I'm gonna grab just a tiny bit of yellow. And we'll be using these colors in the long run, so even if you don't use all of it now, that's okay. And then I'm gonna grab some raw umber. And this is just to kind of tone down. You could probably also use like black, but I tend to like to use a color versus black, because black, I mean, what is black and white? Black and white is gray. So when you have lots of white and a color, and then you add gray or you add black, it tends to gray out the color, and the saturation will go down, versus if you add brown, it tends to darken it while still keeping the color in. Does that make sense? So that is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to start with this much. Although I feel like I'm probably going to use all of this. Okay, so I have my white. I'm going to grab a touch of yellow and an even smaller amount of brown. I'm going to mix this together. And start small, because you can always add more color. You can't really take it out. You'll just have to add more white and more white and more white, and then you'll end up with a giant amount of paint. And if that happens, let's say like this much paint was like way too brown or way too yellow, instead of adding a ton more white to it, I'm just gonna take out a little bit of that, put it to the side, and then add white to that, because I don't need to taint all of that. But I have a good amount here, so that's fine. And essentially you want a little bit of an off-white, warm feeling to the background, but honestly you could use any color you want. So if you wanted to have more of like a red tint, you could add red instead of yellow, but then it would be a little bit more pink. You could add a little bit of blue. Maybe it's more of like a sky, like there's a sky background. You could do that too. Up to you. But if we're going based off of this, then we're gonna make a very off-white color. Hello from Ontario. Hello, Maureen and Danny. I'm guessing it's probably just Maureen, but who knows? I have plenty of men who watch too. All right. I am adding just a tiny bit of brown, just because it seemed a little bit too yellow. Does anybody else like color matching? I don't know why I enjoy color matching so much. It's like sometimes I go really quick, but I really enjoy the process of trying to get the color exactly how I want it. All right, I'm gonna put just a little smidge here on the corner to see if that's the color that I want. And yeah, I think I like that. Something you could also do in this background is you could add some texture. So you could add some different colors with a sponge or a palette knife. It's really up to you. You could go fun. You could add splattering to the background. Maybe we'll do that. But yeah. All right, so I am happy with this color. I'm happy with that color swatch. So give me a second. I need to put this on the other side. All right, so I usually have this on the top of my palette so that I can open up my paper towel and then just sandwich it between it, and it just wipes right off. There we go. I have a fairly clean palette knife to use next time. All right, I'm going to take my large brush. I'm going to get it wet. Whatever large brush you're using, I'm going to wipe off the majority of the water, dab it on my paper towel so it's not dripping, and that should be enough water to mix in with a little bit of that paint and just make it easier to apply to the canvas. If you take just the paint, it'll be really thick and it won't spread as easily, which is fine if you want it really thick, but for right now, this we're going, you know, light color onto white. It's okay if it's a thinner coat, as long as it covers it all. Alright, and I'm really just going to cover the entire background. Every once in a while I will dip the very tip of my brush in the water. And after I've got the majority of that top piece in, before it dries, I'm just gonna go across the whole canvas, and that will really help weed out any clumps of paint or any strokes that might be there. So I'm just trying to adjust my camera. Yeah, so I'm gonna grab a little bit more of this paint. What's nice about doing a background that is all the same color is that even if there are strokes in it, there's no blending because we blended it all beforehand. And it just makes doing the background really quick and easy. It just makes it simple. I'm not being too careful about going around the leaves. If you wanted to, you could just darken that so you could really see it through that color, but it's up to you. If you go over like the tops of it or anything like that, that's fine. We'll be coming back in and putting that all back in. I'm just keeping the general shapes of it. And just like normal, I'm going to go back over and make sure that it's all going that direction. I think the better option for making it darker is, instead of doing it harder with the pencil, because the pencil is graphite, and I don't know if you can tell, but it's already started to change the color of my paint. It's better to go in with either an acrylic marker or a liner brush with some black. I find that that works better than having a bunch of graphite, because working with such a light color such as this background, it tends to change the color. Alright, I'm going to do the side here just so I don't forget about it, because out of sight, out of mind. I will forget about it. I've done it in the past. And while I'm at it, I might as well do the bottom too. Alright, so I can tell that I'm not going to have enough paint for the rest of this. So I'm gonna put some right here so I don't lose it, and I'm going to make more of this. And the reason I'm putting that over there is so that I can color swatch it. And I can try to get it as close as I can. This is why you make more than you think you'll need, so you don't have to re-color it. Alright, I think I matched the color pretty well. It's nice that it's only those 3 colors, so. I think it's close enough not to notice. And for the bottom of the leaves, you do want to make sure that you go up into the leaf so that you can come back and make those little edges. Hi, Tammy. She says hello from Calgary. I always have a lot of people from Canada and Calgary. So you'll see I'll be putting the paint here, and then once I get it in the main thing, I'm just going to brush it out. I will say there is, I forgot to mention this earlier, on the traceable, this is the traceable for the 11 by 14 canvas. I did miss a point. I see there's a leaf here. I did miss a point. So I'll be going in and fixing that, like probably tonight after the class. So just for those of you who did use the traceable and are painting it now, don't forget that one. And I think I got the rest of them though. Yeah. But yeah. All right. So while that dries, let me just fix my camera that I just completely bumped. I get annoyed if it's not like perfectly squared up. It's the perfectionist artist part of me. Can we paint the entire canvas and then add the pattern? Yes, you can. Yes. That's the other option. So I was saying in the beginning, you can either paint the whole canvas and then you can do your traceable after it's dried, or you can do it this way, and you can come back in with the thing. But I usually, because I do the traceable ahead of time, I'll usually just paint around, but it's totally up to you. As long as it's dry, it won't really affect whatever color you put on top of it. With the exception of the yellow, you are gonna want to white out the yellow And I would say to probably white out all the colors, because any color other than white behind these are going to darken the color and affect it at least a little bit. So I would, like, we're gonna go in and put back in the white. But obviously it's like up to you. You can also do 2 coats instead of doing white and then a coat of the color. You can do 2 coats of the color. So it's up to you. Okay, I'm going to clean off my brushes and my palette knife. That's actually what we're going to do right now while it's drying. I'm going to come back in with some white just to do a preliminary like coat. And I'm going to come in with my, actually I'm going to come in with my filbert. You can do either a filbert or a round brush, whatever you're more comfortable with, in order to get small areas. I'm using my pinky on the dry spot to give myself stability. And I'm just going to put in and this is where you kind of get to shape it. I'm going to do the general shape of where my pencil mark was. And then I think I'm going to come back in with my round brush and put in all the little like spiky things of the whatchamacallit, of the leaf. Come on, Samantha, we're doing leaves. Out of all the words I can't find the words for, leaf should not be one of them today. And it's really important that during this process you don't need to do it exactly like the picture. Like, all leaves are different. Do whatever, however many little points you want. It does not need to be exactly like the picture. So again, I do like the main shape, and then I'm going to come back in with my pointy brush. And just add some points to it. And what's nice about having that extra background color is that if you mess up during like the next portion or whatever, and you put a color where you didn't want to or whatever, you can come back with that background color and just fix it. Something you can do when you are painting with a round brush is when you're loading it, you can load the brush, get it all over it, and then when you're pulling it off of the palette, to roll it, and that will allow any clumps of paint to remain on the palette while also pulling together all the bristles into a fine point, and that will help in getting those points on your brush onto the canvas. This is a long combing process, but it's necessary. Necessary in order to make sure that the next layer of color is all has the same undercoat to work off of. And we have people from Merced and Turlock. Linda, we actually just moved from San Diego to Merced. Yeah, we're neighbors. It's my husband, by the way. He's probably in the other room. I feel like my world just got real small real quick. Alright, we're almost done here. At least I'm almost done. If you're painting with me live, let me know where you're at so that I don't rush too far ahead. This one, we can wait a little bit if needed. Alright, I'm just going to take a light wash of my white and just kind of go over the other parts of the leaves that kind of didn't get covered up with the white. Again, just so that it all has the same undercoat. That bright white will really help those colors pop, and in this type of painting, that's exactly what we want. We want those colors to pop. I'm just taking a pretty watery white and just covering up the bodies of the leaves. You can even see it on camera how this is just a tad bit lighter. It's a tad bit whiter than even the white canvas. All right, one more. And then we'll start playing around with our colors. All right. Here's a point where you can kind of look at it and make sure that everything is in place that you want to be in place. I think I'm going to add a couple more little things over here. Hello from Argentina. I'm curious, what's the weather like in Argentina right now? Alright, so I think that is great for right now. Let's go ahead and mix together some fun colors that we can do this with. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put in the string. Okay, I'm going to put in the string, and then I'm going to put in all of the the vine, like the stem of the leaf into the spine of it, and that way when we're doing all of our colors we can still see where the middle is supposed to be, and that will help us a little bit later on. We won't have to redefine where that is. So I'm going to grab a liner brush. Actually, let's go ahead and mix together that top color. I'm going to use a little bit of the background color that I have left and a little bit of this brown, and I'm just going to darken it up, and then I'm going to add just the touch of red and yellow to make it a little bit more of that like orangey color. Gabby, my husband and I used to live in Florida. Okay, so I have both of these. I'm going to add just a touch of red and a touch of yellow. Start with a small little bit of amount. You can always add more. Alright, I can see I have more red than I do yellow, so I'm just going to add a little bit more yellow. And I'm trying to go for like a, almost like a burnt sienna type of color maybe. But brown. I'm gonna darken it up a little bit with this brown. Technically, if you had a burnt sienna, which I do, but I'm just gonna use the colors that I already have, you could use burnt sienna and then maybe just kind of fade it a little bit with some white and maybe some raw umber. But I already have a bunch of colors on my palette and I'm not gonna waste them, so. Alright, I think this is a good color. I'm just trying to make like a brownish color. It doesn't have to be the same as what's on there. I'm gonna grab my liner brush. This is one of my favorite liner brushes. And I'm going to grab some of this color. And I'm just going to very lightly follow the black line of my pencil. And go as slow as you want. This does not need to be a quick process. And if it's not going on the canvas as easily as you'd like, just add some water to your brush and twist it in the paint, kind of mix it together so that it goes a little bit easier. And I'm gonna go over my line a few times, kind of so that it looks like that kind of twine look. And it's okay if the lines aren't totally matched up, because twine is kind of a few things mixed together. And it's really important that in order to see the line of this twine, it's really good if you go through the, if you go through the leaf, because you don't want to have one line here and then the start of another line here, because then it's not going to look like it goes through like behind it. It's not going to look like it's one consecutive piece of twine. do it on the other side. Like so. All right. Now with the same brown, I'm gonna darken it up later, but with the same brown, I'm going to take my liner brush. If you don't have a liner brush, you can use a smaller brush, but if you don't have a liner brush, I would highly recommend getting one. They are fantastic. And I'm just going to go over the line. An easy way to do this is if your consistency of paint is good, you have a good amount of water mixed in with your paint, not so that it's see-through, but so that it can flow on your canvas. If you place your, let's see if I can go in and show you. You can place your, the tip of your brush on where the tip of the stem is and make it big, and then as you go down you're gonna just lift it up, and then you can trail all the way down. Sorry, my hand's in the way a little bit, but you can do the big part of the stem in the same stroke that you do the rest of it in, so that's helpful. And then you can always come back in and square it up if you want to. Square up the very tip of it. I keep bumping my elbow. Ow. This is one of those days, isn't it? And if it's too big, like let's say I don't want that one that big, you can take a clean brush. You can either wait until it's dry and go over it with that background color, or you can take a slightly damp brush, and while it's still wet, you can just take away some of it. And I'll usually go over it 2 times just to make sure I got it. There's a clean line. Alright, on the last one, I don't really like how this one came out, so I'm just going to take a clean brush and just clean that off. And I'm gonna try again. I was following my initial line, but think I want to change it a little bit. All right. All right. And I just got a tip from Tammy. Thank you so much, Tammy. I really appreciate it. I got a welcome to Patreon, Tammy, and then the tip is from Deborah. So thank you, Deborah and Tammy. Welcome to the family, the Patreon family. For anyone interested in Patreon, I have traceables, I have extra classes that are exclusive to Patreon, and then if you decide to become a patron specifically for the classes, then I also have traceables for all of those classes too. And you will also get access to all of the past classes that I've ever done in Patreon, which is like really cool. So just in case you are interested, there you go. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some colors. This is where it gets fun. So we have a little over an hour just to really hammer out a ton of color. But we have a really, really great base for all of this color now. Because we put in the work now, we're not going to really have to do more than one coat of color, because then we're going to, it's okay if these leaves aren't fully saturated with color, because leaves are slightly transparent, and we'll be able to kind of replicate that within our layering. So I think I'm going to work from left to right because I am right-handed. If you are left-handed, then feel free to do the opposite, but I'm going to do it from left to right. It just makes sense to me. So I'm going to get out my green. We're going to mix together this green with some brown and kind of make it a little bit more earthy tone. There we go. And I'm going to take some of this out and add just a little bit of yellow to it, so that's a little bit lighter. And if you're using a different green, I'm using a very vibrant green. If you're using a different green, like a hooker's green, you're gonna need to add a lot more yellow, maybe a tad bit of white and raw umber to like make it lighter and more of that earthy color. For me, I didn't have to make it much lighter because it was already really light. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take my filbert. I'm going to use my small filbert so that I don't miss any details. I'm going to take my light color first with some water, and I'm just going to put this on here. And the leaf in front of it is pretty opaque, so I'm not gonna go behind it with it. So some of the other ones we will go behind it a little bit so that we can see it through that. But for this green one, we are not, because this one is pretty opaque. I'm going to go in with a little bit of my darker color right here where it's starting to get a little bit more of a dark, shadowy color. And making sure to go in all of these little leaf points. And as I'm going down this side of the leaf, I'm going to leave out the points. So I almost did like a backwards like point, just so that it's still white when we come back with the lighter color. I'm gonna go in with some brown, some dark brown, and I might need to wait until this layer, there's going to be a lot of layers in this, so I think I'm going to wait until this layer dries and then we can come back and darken it up. But while we're here, I'm going to go in with some lighter yellow green. I just grabbed some yellow and mixed it with this lighter green, and just gonna kind of put some lighter bits on here. All right. While that's drying, because we're gonna do a couple layers, let's go ahead and do this one. So it's going to be mostly this lighter green, like it's a pretty heavily yellow green. So I'm just going to put that over the whole thing. And you can see right here I went over my line a little bit, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to get a clean brush and wipe it away. I feel like painters who are quote unquote good don't necessarily paint any better than anyone else, they just know how to fix their mistakes better. So like there's less mistakes because we know how to fix them when we do make mistakes, because we still make mistakes. Just because we're more experienced doesn't mean that we don't mess up. And even here, I went in front of this one and I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to rinse out my brush, and I'm just going to take some of that water and reactivate it, dry it off, do that. And now this type of yellow is okay. I'm okay with that because it is going to be pretty yellow. I'm just going to put in some of these points. Alright, I'm going to take some of this brown and mix it with some of this yellow-green mixture. It's a little bit on the brown side, and I'm going to just put that on this bottom side. And trust me, in this process, this is going to be considered the ugly phase, where they're kind of going to look nothing like leaves right now. I mean, they look like leaves, but they definitely aren't going to look like the way that we want them right now, and that's okay. We'll get there. Gonna add a little bit of shadow, and I'm going to come back in with my green and gonna add a little bit of green, but we'll be able to add more of this when it's dry. On my brush, I'm going to grab some yellow, some more yellow, and I think I'm just going to use the pure yellow with maybe like 1% brown. 1% brown and 1% red. And I think this is good. We can always come back and brighten it up with that pure yellow if we need to. Alright, make sure I get all the green out of my brush. And I'm going to use my large brush now. Just feel like it'll go quicker. And if you are not comfortable trying to get in all the little crevices with your large brush, that is totally fine. Just grab a smaller brush for the ends and go from there. You don't have to try to do that. Even I'm going to get a smaller brush so I can be more intentional. Alright, I'm going to leave it like that because I'm going to need to do a second coat of that color just because it is so transparent. Just making sure that I really do get the edges of that. I'm going to do this color for the bottom part of this next one. And then I'm going to come in with some more of an orangey layer. We'll be adding our kind of shadowy effect in a bit. I'm going to grab just a little bit of this red and mix it in with some of the yellow over here. And I'm going to put it on the top here. I'm just going to blend it in as much as I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. Something that I did just now is I put the main paint on there, and then as I brought it down, I'm barely touching the canvas, and I'm just going back and forth, just blending it in until it goes all the way to the bottom. I think if you wanted to add maybe a little bit more red, that would look nice around this part. Have a little bit more of that contrast between the two yellowish ones. And then I'm also going to do yellow on this side, on the top. And then we're going to go into a little bit more of our orange. So if you have an orange that you want to use, that's fine. I'm just going to use the red and yellow that I have on here. Because I can get a pretty bright orange with that. And I'm going to add a little bit of this background color as my white, just to dull it down ever so slightly. And I'm going to work on blending that in. Again, I'm just barely touching the canvas. All right. While that is still wet just a little bit, I'm going to get some of this brown and mix it into that. And just kind of try to help with the you can also wait to do that later, but it's up to you, because I think I'd also need to do that a little bit here too. Alright, I'm gonna let that dry. Now I have my red and let's see, I'm gonna use my palette knife to mix together. I'm going to mix in some brown with this. I need a little bit more brown. Red that I would rather use for this. The red here is a scarlet, and it's kind of a little bit of an orangey red. And then I have this one. It's a little bit richer in tone, and I think I'm going to use some of that. I don't think you'll be able to tell on. Oh, you can't even see it. Okay, hold on. Give me a second. I didn't realize you couldn't see that part of my camera. There we go. It's not set up correctly. There you go. There, you don't need to see my... There you go. Okay, so I have like this kind of orangey red, and then I have like, it's like a deeper red, and I feel like that's gonna be better for this color specifically. This one's kind of like more of an orangey, so that's fine. But for that other one, I want a richer, tone, which you could, I think you could probably add like a blue potentially to make it, but you might get too purpley, so it's up to you. And just use what you have. If you have any questions about color, feel free to ask. That's why I'm here. Alright, I'm going to add this kind of orangey red. Gonna add a little bit more of like a yellow orangey tint to the top. gonna add more of that red down below. Now remember, when you're painting, you can always add a little bit of water to help your paint kind of move on the canvas. Just remember not to remember not to add too much, because if you add too much, then it will end up being translucent, and you don't want it to be translucent. Okay, I'm just gonna add a touch of brown to this side of kind of the bottom area. Alright, I'm going to rinse off my brush, and it's already looking really pretty with all that color. I love it already. Let's go in and finish our last one over here, and then we can do some more coats because this is all dry. And I'm going to do this base red, and you'll see the difference and how bright it is. I'm gonna get some more brown out. I'm just very carefully putting in all those little points. Alright, so now as I get over to this left side, I'm going to start darkening it with some brown. Like that. And I'll be able to come in with it even darker. Okay, I need to go check on my kids because one of them is crying obnoxiously. So I will be right back. I'm just gonna go check on them real fast and finish this real fast. Okay. I will be right back. Alright, I am back. I apologize for that. Being at home alone with the kids and hearing your daughter scream cry in the other room. It's not the best feeling. But we are back. It is okay. She's fine. She's gonna take a nap on the couch instead of her brother's room because her brother wasn't being very nice. So, okay. We're back. I'm going to, let's see. I'm gonna get out some black because I want to darken up this side just a little bit more before we circle back around to the other side. So a little bit of black brownish color. It's about, and let's see. Just gonna kind of blend it back over to that side. And just with the remainder of what's on my brush, I'm just kind of brushing some of this dark onto the other side. All right. I might have added a little bit too much black, but that's okay. I'll fix it in the next. I will fix it in the next part of this. All right. Let's go back over to the green part. I'm gonna rinse out this brush real good. I still have some of this green over here, so I'm gonna grab some of this brown, some of this green, and I'm going to add a dark color here, a little bit of water, just a little bit to help it move. Paying attention to where all the other little bits of this leaf are. And I kind of just go up into it, and it creates that that part of the leaf. And I'm just going to brush it up into the rest of it, and it will just kind of have that. I'm going to put a little bit of this on this side, and I'm going to come back in with that brighter green that I need some more yellow to play with. And you can, at this point, you can start adding little sections in your painting. Of where like the highlights are. Of like the different parts of the leaf. You can also wait until a little bit later on our third coat. All right. I'm gonna start adding, on this one, I'm gonna start adding my green first. So I just have like a dry brush, and I'm adding a little bit of this green in the different veins of the leaf. Add a little bit of brown there. Add my green all the way down. And then I'm gonna come back with this bright yellow and just add yellow in between where the veins are. Like that. And then for this one, with my liner brush, I'm gonna go into this brown, lighten it up with some yellow. So the brown that's over here, that kind of brown that we initially used for the spine, lighten it up with some yellow, twist in my liner brush, and I'm gonna put in some of these veins. And essentially there should be a vein, even if it's not completely visible, there should be a vein for every one of those like points at the end, and then they can also branch out in like parts of, if you want to go in that much detail, you can give each one a couple branches, which is why a liner brush is super helpful for this, because it's super easy to add little branches of things. It's super easy. Now I'm going to add with a dry brush just a super light shadow. Like that. And then the next go around we'll be adding our little splotches once that all dries. Let's go to the next one. This one is pretty much, I'm gonna add, I think I'm gonna do just like a second coat of this one, because oh, on this one I'm gonna add some, I am gonna add some yellow as for like my second coat. That's good. Alright, so for this one, I'm going to do a little bit more of the oranginess. Going to go in and add my yellow just straight to the canvas and blend that in, and then go in with a little bit of that brown. It's going to be a little bit too dark, so I'm going to rinse out my brush, get all that brown off, and just move what's already on the brush or on the canvas. I'm going to add just a few little veins to this one. And because we're working a little bit more in the orangish range now, I'm gonna add just a touch of red to my mixture, my like kind of brown mixture. I'm gonna add those here. Just really quick. You're not gonna see most of them, so it's okay if you can't see it. Alright, I'm gonna take my, oops, I just dropped my brush. I'm gonna take my yellow and I'm going to put it at the top because I really feel like I need more yellow here. And that will kind of fill in the void of it there. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of this orange. Alright, and I'm still putting in the shadow that's right here. I'm gonna go in real quick with a little bit of a lighter vein. I'm going to come back with a darker one. And as you see for this one, you don't have to do this, but if you want to add a little bit of detail and put a darker version of your orange on like the top part, and then almost like a highlight on the bottom. I'm guessing there's a light source that's coming from the top, or sorry, from the bottom. I'm just going to do this to a few of them and see how I like it. Alright, now we get to do the darker ones. I'm going to take a brush and darken up the middle. I don't really know if I need to do a second coat of this one. I'm going to come in with some yellow here at the top. And put some kind of highlight colors. Alright, let's see, what else can we do? I'm gonna rinse off my brush. I think I'm done with that one, other than like the detail stage, which would be the last like 5 minutes of the class. So let's do one more layer of this one. So I'm just gonna go in with my red layer. Put in my red. And I'm going to bring the red up just a little bit. I think I added a little bit too much dark. There we go. And I'll add some splotches of dark when this layer is dry and we're doing our last layer. All right, that was a fun part. You get to kind of do some splattering. If you have a toothbrush, feel free to get it, or you can just do it with a, you can also do some texture with a fan brush. Totally up to you. I'm gonna do just like the tiniest bit of splatter with a toothbrush. I'm gonna grab some brown and grab a little bit. I will say you have to be kind of careful that you don't get it on the background. But that is why we kept around that color, so that if we do splatter somewhere that we don't want it, we'll come back later at the end and clean it up. So I'm just gonna look here and figure out where I want some of this. kind of just gonna do a little bit of it all. Yeah, see, I can already tell that there's some here, but you can either keep it or you can fix it later. All right. You can also take a clean brush right now, get it a little bit wet, and wipe it off. But if you do that, you do run the risk of taking off the bottom layer. So I'm just gonna wait till it's dry and then cover up anything I don't want to keep. Because I still have to go around some of the edges and kind of clean it up. The leaves are going to make a festive addition to the seasonal decorations. Yes, 100%. It's very festive and it's so pretty. My mom and I, well, me and my family, when I was younger, we used to live in Chester, which is like near Mount Lawson, like Almonor, that area. And we used to go to Chico, which is all Northern California. And during the fall, we used to drive about 45 minutes down the hill from Chester to Chico. Like in the fall, literally, favorite time to drive that drive, because like the whole forest is just red and yellows and just is so pretty. This definitely reminds me of that. Okay, so for the last part of this, we're just going to add whatever little nicks and blemishes that you want. Honestly, that's what makes this look more realistic, is those blemishes. The first thing I'm going to do is grab my my round brush. I'm going to dry it off as much as I can, and I'm going to use what I like to call a dry brush technique. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of that paint. I don't have a whole lot of water in my brush, and I don't want to, so I'm just going to add some dark spots, just some. I'm just gonna look at this and kind of get ideas from it, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm just gonna add some dark pieces to the leaves. I'm gonna add some dots here and there. I'm going to get out my toothbrush and just, actually I'm gonna get out my my filbert, and I'm not gonna get it wet, and I'm just going to dab it. I'm gonna add some here. I'm gonna get some, and I'm just using the corner of my brush. I'm gonna use some of this black too, because I feel like it needs to be darker. Alright, and the last thing I'm going to do, I feel like I say that usually like at least 3 times before I actually end the class. I'm going to take my liner brush and I'm going to get a dark color, so maybe like my brown or my black. And I'm going to put this one back in. And then I'm actually going to get my other color, my background color, with a bunch of water, and I'm going to put in light light ones. Like that. Alright, so now that I think I'm done with the leaves. I think I'm gonna add a little bit of dark brown just to the very tops of them. So that they're a little bit darker. Like that. And now I get to take I'm gonna take my my small filbert and to add the finishing touches of my background color to any places where I need it to cover it up. And it's going to look lighter because it's wet and not dry. Just trust the process and know that it's the same color. This is also where you can help fix any of the like outer edge of the leaves and make them pointy. I think I might do one more thing. Just some very minuscule detail work. Let's see. Alright, I'm going to get my liner brush and get some brown. And I'm going to put some details on the tips, particularly the yellow one, to be a little bit darker. That one. And then just anywhere where I feel like it needs to stand out just a little bit more. You can come back in and kind of give it a highlight. All right. Well, I think that is it. I think we are done for the day. Thank you so much for joining me. I would love to see your paintings. So if you are not in my community on Facebook, make sure to go over there and join my Facebook community. It's free to join. It's just a Facebook group. You can share your work, and then also make sure to just subscribe on Facebook as well, because that is where all of my that's pretty much where I post the most. So if you're only on YouTube, you might be missing some stuff. But yeah, thanks for joining me, and we will see you next week. Have a great night, guys. Bye.